Welcome to the Contact Center Cactus Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Mulvin, and we're back for part 2 of our discussion with me and Jake coming out from the Philippines, my co-host here, and we're talking about why is the Philippines one of the leading hubs for outsourcing in the world. And so last episode, we talked about history of the U.S. taking over the Philippines for a while, and that played a big role. We talked about infrastructure. We talked about how the call center industry has been in the Philippines for a couple decades now, and so now there's that investment to prepare for more future growth. And so today we're going to continue that conversation. We're going to talk some more about culture because that comes up all the time. Work ethic. I've got some examples to share with you guys there, and also want to share. If you're listening to this episode, I'm guessing you're probably thinking about outsourcing. And maybe you're thinking about either what country to outsource or what company you want to work with. And so if you're thinking about outsourcing to the Philippines, I've got some things to consider. Because every country, no matter where you go, everything's going to be different. Philippines isn't an exact copy of the U.S. There's a lot of things that are different. So we'll talk about some of those differences and some things to look out for, and why maybe working with a company like PacBiz, you don't really have to think about them. So let's dive into it. So culture, that's what I really want to jump into, because everyone talks about the culture of the Philippines. The story I hear, the example, that I think is worldwide is like if there's a natural disaster and you've got the news covering it and there's flooding and people's houses are being washed away, and then they show the Filipinos and they're like smiling and they're happy and they're like, everything's gonna be fine. I'm here. It's a testament to the culture, like that way people think in the Philippines is the way Filipinos think all over the world. And so talk to me about that a little bit, because you're living it, but people look at the Filipinos and there's I guess maybe a stereotype sometimes, but it's also true, about the hospitality and the culture and being happy in the face of adversity. So why is that? Well, I guess first of all, why is that such a big deal for outsourcing? Why is that important?
Of course, we've been known to have this, thinking always the positive side of things. As Filipinos, you can see we've been through a lot, like disasters and other things, and you can still see people doing their things while cleaning their houses on the flood and other things with a smile on their faces, and you can question why are these people why are they like they're not worried about it too much. Probably it's because of we've been through a lot. During the old times, like when we were colonized by Spain, and after that by the Americans, and during the war as well, those were the difficult times of the older people, and I think it's because we've been used to things, difficult things, and the only way we can, there's something about that, like the effectivity of showing in the surface that we're okay. Sometimes you can't really tell that what's this person going through, because they keep on smiling and laughing, and that's something within the Filipinos. And also there's one thing, like if we're guilty about something, and when somebody's trying to correct a Filipino, I don't know, but sometimes it's probably within our culture that we smile a bit, and you can hear us from on the phone that there's a little evidence of a laugh or something, but maybe that's it can get misinterpreted by the person on the other phone, but that's being us Filipinos is trying to. It's like acknowledging that sorry, I made a mistake on that. And you can hear them with a little smile on it, but sometimes the person on the other side will find it sarcastic. So that's a difference. That's one example of culture difference of Filipinos and and
Yeah,
other races.
but it goes so well with customer service, right? Like if you're good at dealing with tough situations and putting a smile on your face, what happens when you've got a tough customer on the phone and you've got to put a smile on your face? You're able to handle it better. And so, like they go kind of hand in hand. And so it's nice to, I mean, it's sad what the Philippines had to go through, but we're able to take that and turn it into building up the country and providing jobs. But those are real things. Like people, like they come, they you're right, like about the smiling. I haven't heard that exact scenario, but I'd rather deal with that. That people are, trying to be happy and to make the customer happy. Because again, it's all about that customer experience. And what's happening these days, and I always got to tie in where I can. AI and what's happening. Like the more and more calls are being automated, and so the call center jobs, like when you're dealing with answering the phones, now automation handles the easy stuff. So now we're handling the more difficult stuff. So more and more, if you're working in the call center in the Philippines, chances are you're probably handling stuff that was tougher than what people were dealing with 10 years ago, 5 years ago even. It's stuff that sometimes there's no point of someone doing this work. Like it should be automated. But so it does give Philippines a competitive edge when it comes to being able to handle those tougher calls, because that's where the trend that I'm seeing is that it is going to get tougher, that you're only outsourcing the hard stuff because the easy stuff a bot can handle, or they can do it themselves on their website. You don't need to talk to a person.
Yeah, and yeah, it's been an effective practice, but it's also within us that we put that smile on our faces during when we instead of being angry. That's being a Filipino. Like there was one training that I attended. Like you can be very effective in talking to the customer with a slight change of your tone when you put a smile on your face while talking, even if they can't see you. Probably that's something else that we have. But again, as I mentioned, that not all customers, yeah, with the culture differences, if you sound like you're not really affected, or you put that smile on your face while where you're speaking to a difficult customer, they tend to have that they think that you're being sarcastic, but overall we're just trying to provide the best customer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I wanted to talk about was work ethic, which goes, I think, closely along with how we're handling the customer on the phone. So I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback I get, and I probably said it on a past episode, is when we first start working with a company that has never outsourced before or outsourced to the Philippines. And I always love being on those calls with the client because, like, right away, like I can tell they're trying to get something out. They're trying to tell me something, and many times they can't put the words around it. Like they don't know how to describe like this feeling. And I'm like, oh, it's the work ethic, right? Like the culture that you see there, and that they're happy to come to work, and that they actually listen to feedback and stuff. And they're like, yes, that's it. Like, but it is something that I don't know how you measure this, or it's not something that I hear talked about the Philippines a lot, but I hear it from the clients that they did not realize that people like this still existed in the world. They thought that like everyone, the way that your workers are in the U.S., that's how everyone is, and that's how it'll always be forever. And so it's like a breath of fresh air for the clients when they start working with our team, and they're like, man, they show up, they're here all the time, they're consistent, they're asking questions, they're learning, they're getting better. And so that, I don't know if we're just doing a great job finding the right people, or it's a Philippine thing, but I know that's something that I've been seeing a lot. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's very common, Eric. That's I think it's because of the culture, and we love our jobs, and most of the people who are out there, it's really hard to get a job here in the Philippines. There's certain places who would really wish and hope that they can land a job somewhere, and once they have it, they really they would do anything to keep the job. And yeah, that's another thing. Being that's the reason why we don't retaliate, I guess, with the angry customers, and we mostly just help them, just to resolve the issues, and give them the solutions of the reasons why they call the center. So most of them are having these problems, and most of them are just wanted to have a service in a specific industry. So I believe that it's really difficult for others to work in a BPO company or call center, but once they're here, they take care of it. And yeah, that's one thing. We always talk to them about, like, we provide, this is what we represent. We provide better service and customer experience. So we just keep it like that. And if they no they if the we always take care of the customers. In short, that's 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 what we are. And even also in different places, when we see, maybe that's part of being the hospitability of the Filipino. We want to make sure that they don't feel bad, or they feel good about being here, about being around us. That's one trait that we have. That is very unique. And working everywhere, especially working, dealing with foreign people on the phone, like Americans. We want to make sure that they're not feeling bad about talking. I mean, while they're talking to us, me as a Filipino, that's one thing that I want to make sure that the person I'm talking to is comfortable talking to me.
Yeah, because I mean, it goes back to customer experience. You want to make the customer comfortable, feel happy, have a positive experience, and if it's built into the culture, if you're naturally, wanting every interaction, wanting people to feel like that, it just makes it easier for every day. That's what people are doing on the phone. So I want to switch gears a little bit here and talk about some things to look out for if you're outsourcing. We talked about culture, and we're talking about all the positives, right? Now, every culture has its positives and maybe some faults too. Now, we're not going to talk about faults of the Philippines, but we're going to talk about just some things to look out for. So, and I will say that over the last 8 years of running PackBiz with Jake, and Jake's operations manager, so he's the one that is making sure that these issues don't happen. But we do a lot we take care of all this for the companies that work with us. So the stuff we talk about are things that you might not have to worry about or ever deal with. When would you have to deal with these is if you're working with a really small company. Maybe you hired someone on Upwork or someone online. You just post something somewhere out there on the internet. I'm looking for someone in the Philippines to answer calls, and here's the rate, the pay per hour. So now you're doing the job of PackBiz, basically. You're doing the job of managing this call center employee, and so all that support now you've got to handle. So when that's happening, you might have to deal with some stuff that we usually deal with. So that's what I want to talk about. And so one of the things, actually, I talked with another company, another partner of ours, that also has some virtual assistants in the Philippines, and he was sharing some of these too. And I thought, this is great, because I don't really think about this stuff. But if you're outsourcing, you should be thinking about it, because not only the Philippines, but anywhere. Like, what's the weather like? What natural disasters do they have? I mean, if you're trying to pick somewhere in the U.S. and you were putting your business, if you could never go down and you have to be up and running all the time, like a data center, you might not want to put your data center on the coast of Florida, or if you're worried about earthquakes, and you might not want to put your business in California. So just like everywhere else in the world, Philippines, I think the big thing that they have to deal with there are typhoons. That you guys, just a couple weeks ago, you had another one that hit most of the whole country. So the feedback I got from our partner here was like typhoons are real, and he didn't. They're just like hurricanes. It's just the Asian name of a typhoon or of a hurricane, but they're just as destructive. So tell me, why is that a challenge? Why are typhoons and hurricanes? I mean, it's obvious, but why is that something that people need to look out for?
Yeah, because Philippines, it's its location, it's facing the Pacific, where most of the typhoons are, they start from the Pacific Ocean most of the time, and they they're unpredictable, of course, and the last time we had the big one was 2 years ago, and it was really big, and that's something, because we've been prepared with heavy rains, typhoons, but not with the big one. I mean, that happened 2 years ago, that we were out for days, and and on the client side, I would imagine working with someone, relying my business to that outsourcing to that company, and them being out for several hours or days, but yeah, we've been really planning so many things to prevent that from happening. Thanks to the internet, which is really improved, that we can have it directly to through that Starlink. If people are aware of that, so
that's what I was going to mention. Yeah, we've been investing in the infrastructure there, but again, like you're a freelance person, you're hiring from home, isn't going to be able to afford the gear unless you buy it for them and pay for their monthly bill. But they're not going to have the gear to invest into that. And so when there's those power outages, when there's those issues, if you got someone working from home, it's something you got to look out for. And we've been able to combat that, or we have our IT team that's making sure that if they're working from home, that they have backup internet, backup power. It's not really a challenge. It's just when you're hiring someone freelance to work from home, that could be something to look out for. Typhoons and one thing that I learned with that storm that hit 2 years ago, you always see on the news like all these homes are wiped out, and you think like, man, it seems like a lot. Like, how did so many people lose their homes? Like, I see the homes in the Philippines. They're like solid cement walls.
Yeah,
they're like crazy, way overbuilt compared to the U.S. But these aren't the homes that are getting knocked down, right? Like the homes that you see, which could be the people that you have working for you. I know it impacted some of the employees at Cactus, but this isn't your brick home, right? Why is it breaking down?
Yeah, and having to have the the office as a backup place where we come and report back to the office if during those times, especially because we
That's true. Yeah, it's people come. Yeah, with the last storm, that's what happened. Everyone came to the office, and if you don't have that with backup internet, backup power, then there's no place for them to go. But for those workers, I wanted to mention, what happens is what I found out, which again, we're trying to educate our listeners here. And I always wondered, how did that work? How did everyone's homes get destroyed? It's because they're built out of light materials. Because I was amazed, like within a couple of weeks, I thought those people that lost their homes needed help. And now it's not the case for everyone, but I know for some of the employees, because it was light materials, they were able to put it back together relatively quickly, which I thought was just interesting. But it's just that's a challenge, And then if you have your worker living in a house built out of light materials and the wind blows it down, they might not be coming to work for a couple of weeks while it gets rebuilt. They might have to be putting it together again. So, right? I mean, am I right here on these stories?
Yeah.
Do they sound accurate?
Yeah, and it's just so unfortunate that some homes and families are not being built to withstand the strong winds, and of course their location. If they're in the wrong location, they would be affected by typhoon. So it's if you're working, if trying to outsource, you just need to ask those questions as well. How are we how are we doing it when these things would happen? Like what are the backup plans? And of course, you can also
great point.
you can also limit the
Yeah, exactly.
things that you can give them. Like you can't just be relying on them. Maybe just give it to others. Like the reliability of being on that bad spot is in comparison to having an office is it's there's a big difference there. So those are the things that you can check while you are trying to work and save a little bit. Just going directly with with a freelancer, or just working directly from someone who's working from home.
Yeah, or any company that you're outsourcing with. These are great questions to ask. Like, when's the last time that your office went down, and for how long, and what happened? Why is that? And if it was recently and they haven't done anything to make sure it doesn't happen again, but no one ever asked me these questions. So if you go to your outsourced company and you start asking these questions, they'll know you're serious and you need good support. But really, I think the challenge is because we talked about infrastructure in the last episode. So the Philippines has really built up, offices, internet, all the facilities in the office building. So if you're outsourcing to the Philippines, a lot of these challenges aren't really a big deal. They were maybe before, and I know Cebu got hit, that same storm a couple of years ago, and but they were able to bounce back pretty quickly, getting the call center stuff up and running. The neighborhoods and the homes, that's another story. But yeah, so that's something to look out for. Another thing that I want to talk about, if you are hiring directly, if you're working with an outsourced company, this should never even come up as a conversation. But 13th month pay. So if you're not from the Philippines, so explain to people, what is 13th month pay?
Yeah, that's the pay that they're gonna get at the end of the year, equivalent to a 1 month pay. So basically, that's a bonus. So they receive that every end of the year. So that's what we have. I believe not all the countries have the 13th month pay. Yeah, it's part of the culture.
We have a Christmas bonus. It's not mandatory. It's not in the U.S. Constitution, or it's not in the Constitution. But I know it's Philippine law that you have to do the 13th month pay.
Yeah, and I believe other companies are doing really good, Eric. They have this 14th month pay, so they receive 2 extra month of pay at the end of the year. So yeah, they get to enjoy more, a lot of extra money to buy something that they want.
So why do you think if you hired a freelance person in the Philippines, and now I think it might be a little different though. I mean, if you have a freelance person, I don't think they expect they don't expect this person in the U.S. necessarily to do the 13th month pay, maybe, but they might. So I've seen this scenario come up where you get to the end of the year and you haven't budgeted for it. I mean, it's 1/12 of what you paid them all year, and that could be a lot in expenses if you have a lot of labor and you didn't budget for it. And I mean, I'm sure you had friends that didn't get their 13th month pay. Maybe they were doing customer service somewhere, and the employer was not based in the Philippines, and they didn't know about it. But I know when we first started PacBiz and the taxi business, I didn't know about it either until I think maybe it was like 2 or 3 years in. It was one of our managers was like, Eric, we usually get a bonus here, and I started learning about it. But those are the things, if you don't know about that, like we deal with all that, so there's no extra bonus that the client has to pay. But if you're working freelance, that could become a big deal,
Mhm.
right? You're not getting that paid.
Or yeah, those are, you can feel the energy of the people every December. They got that, and they started posting it in Facebook, like, this is what I got, those things. And if you're working with someone and directly, and you're not getting the things that you're supposed to have, and you're working with a company, a BPO company. So that's a difference. And maybe it has, somehow it affects people who's working, like, I'm not getting what others are getting, and those things. But it just depends. But those are the things that you would expect, working working with a company. And maybe if you're outsourcing and working directly with someone, you would be expecting that kind of conversation somewhere.
Yeah, and then because we're kind of getting to the end of this episode here, to wrap it up, no matter where you decide to outsource, these are really important questions that you should be asking, or you should be looking into it, because there's a whole other culture there. Even in a place like the Philippines that's really closely aligned with the U.S., there's still differences. And those differences, if you understand those differences, and you might be able to take better care of your employees, they're going to in turn take better care of your customers or whatever you have them doing. And so, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's Colombia, whether it's the Caribbeans, Pakistan, wherever, those are things like, think about your workers, and, think about those cultural differences. And sometimes those cultural differences can help, and they could make that experience better for your customers. And sometimes they might be something that you'll have to work around, that might not help, but you can work around. So, any last thoughts here, Jake?
Yeah, it's just that if you want to, starting a business, if you're a business owner, you should be, or you should love your business. And if you want to make sure that you will be taking care properly, with all the things that should be there on a company that you partner with, when you're outsourcing. Make sure to ask the right questions, and make sure that the interruptions and the outages are being answered or being addressed. Yeah, I know every minute counts during calls. Customers will call, just to talk for for a few seconds or a minute. Getting the business, getting a business by talking that short. And if you're outsourcing to a company that has could potentially be out for hours or days, with all the things that that's going to happen around. You better ask those questions just to make sure that the outages are being controlled or shortened. So that's the best way to be more effective. So just asking those questions. And of course, if you're listening to listen to us, Eric and I, most of the podcasts that we had, we talk about these things. So you can get great points by listening.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. Go back, listen to some old episodes. We cover a lot of this stuff, and what to look out for. And so, but yeah. And if you want to learn more about outsourcing, about managing call centers, or managing your call center vendor, customer experience, listen to more episodes. We're going to be talking about that. And I've got some really exciting guests coming up too. Some people that, business coaches that encourage their clients to outsource, or at least have a virtual assistant, so some really great guests coming up. So I want to thank you, Jake. It's great to be back behind the mic with you. I know I think we had like 6 months since we last recorded an episode. So always great to do a podcast with you. So appreciate it.
Yeah, same here, Eric. Thanks for the opportunity, and just trying to based on experience, trying to share my experience here about how to do things right in outsourcing. So I'm glad to help.
All right, Cool. Well, until next episode, subscribe so that you can hear more episodes of the Contact Center Cactus Chat, and we'll catch you in the future. Thanks for listening, guys.